If you really want to have presence driving on the road, then get behind the wheel of a Range Rover. This is the 2022 Range Rover Sport HSE P400. It's been around for several years now, but it still looks really fresh and has great road presence, even when it's standing still. It's a classic Range Rover look, and it's a design that actually harks back about 50 years or so. Now, if like me you're wondering what the difference between a regular Range Rover and the Range Rover Sport is, well, the answer is 15 centimeters. This one is just a little bit smaller. There's a little bit less room in the boot and a little bit less rear leg room. But beyond that, they're pretty much the same width. They even have the same engines, which with this smaller car means that it actually goes just a little bit faster. Up the front, we've got the attractive LED headlight design, a smaller grille up on top, a bigger one that does the bulk of the breathing beneath it, two larger vents just here on either side of the main grille, and some thin fog lights down the bottom. Another easy way to tell this car apart from its bigger brother is the grille design here on the front fender. In the Sport, it's a little smaller and a little less ostentatious. The standard wheels on the Range Rover Sport are 20 inches, however this car has been optioned with 22-inch gloss black wheels that are very nice. Are they $5,000 worth of nice? Well, I'll leave it up to you. We've got the classic small tail light clusters here at the back of the Range Rover Sport and a tow bar receiver down the bottom there. Now this car has a brake tone capacity of 3,500 kilos, which is pretty useful. Underneath the powered and very dirty tailgate, rained the other night, sits a 780 litre storage space. Now that's when you measure it from floor to ceiling, so practically it's probably a little bit smaller than that. Now for my family of four going away to the beach for a week, that was just enough room, but admittedly I did have my camera gear that takes up a little bit of extra room, so for anybody else it's plenty. A cargo blind here, and this car can be optioned with 7 seats. However, if you do that, it costs more and you lose the full-size spare tyre under the floor. Under the hood of a Range Rover Sport, you'll find one of a few different engines, but this particular one is a 6-cylinder 3-litre petrol that's turbocharged and has a mild hybrid system. It outputs 294 kilowatts of power and 550 newton meters of torque with a 0 to 100 time of 5.9 seconds, which for a car this size is pretty quick. There's an 8-speed automatic transmission and it drives power through all 4 wheels. The interior of the Range Rover Sport is a very nice place to be. As you can see, it's really wide and very, very comfortable. And look, honestly, this ivory white leather might not be to everybody's taste, and it certainly does mark easily, but you can't deny it does look amazing. One important thing to note about 2022 Range Rover Sports is that the ones that were built earlier in the year miss out on the new PIBI Pro system, which is Jaguar Land Rover's latest and greatest infotainment system. It's on a huge screen, it looks really great, it has wireless Apple CarPlay, it's one of the best systems around. This car, unfortunately, was built earlier in the year and it has the old school Touch Pro system, which, look, is still very good. It does everything you need it to do and it does it quite well, but it's just not as good as PIBI Pro. However, if you order one of these cars today, it would more than likely end up with PIBI Pro, but make sure you check with your Land Rover dealer first. Underneath that is the Duo Pro touchscreen system, which operates your climate control and drivetrain settings. It's a really nice system, looks great when it's paired with PIBI Pro, but unfortunately we're not doing that here today, but it still works really, really well. The only downside of this being a touchscreen, of course, is that there are no physical buttons to reach for, so you do have to take your eyes off the road to see what you're doing, but really, everything's so clearly labelled that I think that the difference would be absolutely minimal. 2 cup holders under the sliding door here and a hidden compartment underneath the cup holders. That's right, a nice big deep centre bin here to hide things in, which no one would ever find, and apparently journalists leave their personal effects in here all the time, so I've heard. But it's a really, really convenient space to have. Some shortcut buttons here for the drive system. There's also a pop-up dial here to change drive modes. We've got the handbrake lever. Underneath the leather armrest here is a little storage pad for your phone. Unfortunately, there's no wireless charging in this car, but you can option a refrigerator for this centre bin, but this car doesn't have that, so instead we've got a nice centre bin with 2 USBs and a micro SIM slot plus a 12-volt outlet. The head-up display on the windshield is one of the better ones around. It looks really good when it's giving turn-by-turn directions from the navigation system. We've got a full digital cluster underneath that. Not a lot of customization available with that, but you can put maps in the middle. They don't look as good as Audi's Google-based system, but they're perfectly adequate. They do a good job. The steering wheel, a nice big Range Rover style leather-wrapped wheel here. It's got a really good feel to it with buttons for the sound system and cruise control, plus you have paddle shifters on the back here. A pet peeve of mine in all Jaguar Land Rover products over the last several years has been their habit of putting the window controls up here on the top of the windowsill, which is something that nobody else does, and it's really not a logical place to put it. They've put the seat memory controls down here on the armrest where the window controls should be. Well, apparently that's all changing. They're finally putting the window controls where they should be. Something else that catches out a lot of people the first time they get in this car is that they can't work out how to open the door. I know that sounds weird, but the handle is actually built into the door. You just have to give it a good hard pull and it opens. There seems to be speakers everywhere in this car. It's been optioned with a Meridian sound system. Now it's an $800 option. That's not very much really, because the sound system is magnificent. This is not something you want to skimp out on. Get the Meridian sound system. It is that good. Also on the doors here, we've got lots of leather with stitching. In fact, that's true all the way through the cabin. A really nice mix of materials. It looks really, really good. The seats are leather covered. They are heated and ventilated, tremendously comfortable with 16 ways of electric adjustment, including lumbar support. No massage function, unfortunately, but the seating position is really good. I'm up nice and high, but still nowhere near the ceiling. Looking up, of course, through that magnificent panoramic sunroof, but I've got visibility right to the front of the bonnet. Really good in these huge rear vision mirrors, which also have blind spot monitoring, and good visibility, if a little bit limited perhaps, through the center mirror. Now firstly, apologies to Jaguar Land Rover for when I return this car. Look, it's been to the beach with 2 kids in the back. There's a bit of sand. But anyway, the back seat is, not quite as big as you might expect, and certainly not as big as the one that you might find in the back of the Range Rover Velar, for example. So behind my own seating position, I'm 190 centimeters tall. My knees aren't quite touching the seat in front of me, but I think the hairs are just touching the plastic shell here on the back. So look, it gets a very slim pass, I think, but that panoramic sunroof does keep everything very nice and light and bright in here. The seats are very comfortable, and there is full climate controls here in the middle of the center console section. We've got 2 USB-C outlets, thank God, which has been a lifesaver for my kids on this road trip, and another 12-volt outlet. Just enough room for 3 grown-ups here on the rear bench. The flat floor does give you a little bit more room, and if you're only having 2 people in the back, then the 3rd seat here turns into an armrest with more cup holders and a little storage cubby, which is very shallow. I don't know what you keep in there, a phone maybe, but it's all leather covered and feels very opulent. Going on holidays, of course, means forgetting things, and in my case, I forgot my GoPro. So I'm home again now, and I have to return this car tomorrow, so I better take it for a drive. It kind of feels a bit like driving a big, heavy cloud. Heavy, maybe not fair, because it doesn't feel unduly heavy driving this car, but it just has so much presence and so much bulk. It's big. Yeah, road presence is great if people in small, old Mazda 3s won't let you in. Like a lot of new cars, the Range Rover Sport's engine will switch off when you come to a stop at the traffic lights to save fuel. But it does it so quietly that you will almost not be able to tell when the engine has switched off. The only way I know that it's off now is that the tachometer has dropped to 0. And look, as soon as I take my foot off the brake, that is so fast and so quiet. You really do ride up very high in the Range Rover. In fact, you can even adjust your ride height because the air suspension can be adjusted to give you more ground clearance if you need it when you're off-road. And it can also be lowered to give you a more aerodynamic feel on the highway. But even under normal circumstances, you ride very high in this car. And my wife noticed that we were actually on par with just about every truck we were passing, short of a semi-trailer. I mean, you do have a commanding surveyor type view over all of the traffic in front of you. It feels very safe. The Range Rover Sport is a proper on and off-road machine. You can take this car just about anywhere. So there are a number of different drive modes. The on-road modes are Comfort, Eco and Dynamic. Dynamic can be customized, so you can adjust the engine response, gear shifting speed, the steering as well as the suspension. And then there is the off-road driving modes of grass, gravel and snow. We've got mud ruts, sand and rock crawl. Now these also engage the lockable diff underneath the car, which engage full-time four-wheel drive and help the car maneuver its way out of just about any situation you can come across. The 0 to 100 time of the Range Rover Sport is 5.9 seconds. So let's flick the car into dynamic, put the transmission into S mode and see how it feels. Build some revs. Away we go. Oh, that's good. That's really good. It's a good feeling accompanied by a great noise from the 6-cylinder 3-litre engine up the front. This car is just so versatile. I mean, it can handle the daily driving chores of dropping the kids at school, taking you to and from work, and you're doing it in comfort and style and absolute luxury with this beautiful interior. Then if you want to go off-road, you can climb up the side of a mountain. And then if you want to go out to the track and have a bit of fun and put your foot down, you can do that too. One of the first cars I reviewed on 4 Wheels and a Seat was the Range Rover Evoque, which I was on the whole quite impressed with, but the one thing that I really didn't like was the steering. It felt particularly lifeless and disconnected to the road. The Range Rover Sport is a bit of a different beast though. It actually feels really good, especially in dynamic mode. It's a very easy car to maneuver around despite its size. The only time it does get a little bit tiring to drive is when you're parking, especially in a shopping centre car park. Back when I was a kid, before cars commonly had fuel injection, yes, I'm that old, my dad, especially on a winter's morning, would get into our Ford Fairmont gear and start the engine and keep it revving nice and high for the first minute or so before he drove off. So our entire neighbourhood would know that he had gotten in the car to drive for work. The Range Rover Sport does a similar thing. It will fire up the engine for a good 30 seconds or so when you first turn it on in the morning, and it's a very satisfying noise. It's not as loud as a V8 Ford Fairmont gear from 1980, but it's nice to hear. And look, when I say it revs loudly, it only goes up to about 2,000 RPM, but it just took me back to that moment. You know, I can see why these cars are so popular with the British royal family, especially the late Prince Philip, who had an unfortunate accident in one of these only a few years ago when he was in his late 90s. And that's because they are so easy to drive. It's so smooth and so refined and just feels so well planted to the road. You really do feel almost indestructible in one of these. The Range Rover Sport is a proper off-road machine, but it's not a cheap car. And look, honestly, most of these cars spend their lives navigating the suburban jungle between home and the local private school. But that's okay, because should you change your mind and decide to go off-road, the capability is there. These really are the ultimate combination of luxury and ruggedness.